On Friday the 26th of March 1993 at 11:30 p.m, a lady named Carol Clark was seen getting into a car in the area of Picton Street in Bristol. At the time, she was seen wearing a black baseball cap, brown leather jacket, a blue denim miniskirt, a black polo neck jumper, and a blue t-shirt. But then, Carol just seemed to vanish. Her boyfriend had contacted the police. 2 days later, a dog walker found 32-year-old Carol's body in the water at Sharpness Docks, about 5 miles from where she had last been seen. Her body was found partially submerged, partially clothed. Officers arrived at the pathology lab for briefing. They were told that Carol's neck had been broken in such a struggle, and the cause of her demise was compression to the neck. Her body had been dumped in the reeds and undergrowth at the side of the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal. Carol had lived in Picton Street, in the Montpellier area of Bristol. Carol had grown up in her family as the youngest child. When she was young, she was happy. She had ideas of becoming a model or travelling the world. But as she got older and left school, and Carol managed to get her own flat in the town, she now had to stand on her own 2 feet, pay the bills, the rent, and everything else that goes along with it. And not long after this, the family became concerned that Carol may have started taking some kind of substance. And as time went on, the suspicions turned into reality. But of course, with any addiction, it costs money, and certainly more than she could earn doing a normal job in the town. Carol not only had these substances to pay for, but she was paying the rent, the bills, and it all added up. And soon before family knew it, she had started selling her body on the streets of Bristol. It was a nightmare for her family. They were not only worried about her safety, but they were struggling to know how to help their daughter. It seemed that anything they did do was just not good enough, and it was a massive worry for her parents. Carol worked mainly at weekends, operating from the St Paul's area of Bristol, and usually on the corner of Picton Street and Ashley Road. Carol was a good friend. She loved children and kind of acted like a child in a lot of ways. She lived in the Picton Street area with boyfriend. Carol would usually have the dinner on the table for her boyfriend when he got in from work, sometimes even running a bath for him. She would greet him at the door, and then the two would eat together. Carol was very independent. Her boyfriend did not like what she was doing, but he knew that she needed the money and needed to control her own life. So he put up with it, knowing that she lived with him, came home to him at the end of every night. Carol just wanted to quit these substances and had been given something from the doctors to help with this. Carol seemed to be doing well, and it was noticeable that she was starting to turn her life around. At the time of this case, Carol seemed to be full of optimism and seemed to be happy about life. On Friday, the 25th of March, Carol had been to the hairdresser's. She'd asked for her long blonde hair to be put in a braid. That evening, at Carol's flat, her boyfriend had arranged to go out. He was getting ready while Carol was putting on her makeup, ready for her working night. Carol's boyfriend had told her that he would call her in the early hours of the morning to make sure she was okay. Carol kissed her boyfriend goodnight as she walked out of her flat and onto the street to begin her night. Carol always wore the same outfit when she worked the streets. That night she seemed happy, and by 12:30 a.m. Carol had popped back home. Her boyfriend called to make sure she was okay, and Carol picked up. She told him she was tired and hungry and asked him if he would bring back a kebab. The boyfriend agreed and said he'd be home within the next 2 hours, and she put the phone down. At 2:20 a.m, in the early hours of Saturday morning, Carol's boyfriend arrived back home in a taxi, back to the flat they shared. Everything looked normal, the lights were on, and he shouted her, telling her he'd got her kebab. But there was no answer, Carol was not in the flat. Her keys were there, her handbag, all of her makeup was on the table. It was strange that if she'd have popped out, she would have taken these things with her. Then he saw a note scribbled on a small piece of paper by the phone. It said that she had left around 1:30 a.m. and that she would be back by at least 2:30. Carol's boyfriend sat up waiting for her until 4 a.m. watching the time ticking on, but still no Carol, no phone call, and eventually worried sick, he rang the police to report her missing. But now, as we know, Carol's body had been discovered, and police now had a murderer on the loose. Police were now faced with a large-scale murder investigation involving multiple agencies and many officers. The location where Carol's body was found was overlooked by 7 Way, and on the weekend that she was discovered, it was the 200th anniversary celebrations of the British waterways, meaning it would have been very busy with foreign registered vessels in the dock. Sadly, despite extensive inquiries, reviews of as much CCTV as they could collect, and reviews of the case, this murderer remained at large. These were some of the witness accounts of the people that came forward when they realised that a young girl's body had been found. They rang the police to tell them what they had seen.
At about 11:30, a local couple on their way home remember seeing her.
The car breaks down. We managed to coast it onto Picton Street, where I noticed a man and a woman talking. The man seems to be getting on the lady's nerves. He's about 5'11", 28 to 30 years old. I can see she's very agitated. On Picton Street, I had the bonnet up, basically messing about the car.
Hey, have you got a light, mate? Don't smoke, all right?
I was really irritated. The man seemed to have been drinking. Eventually, I went over to the phone box to phone my dad. But while I was waiting for my dad to come down, the car pulled in. I could see she was talking to the driver, but I don't know what happened to her after that.
Some 5 hours later, that Saturday morning, about 20 miles away in Sharpness Docks, a local man noticed a couple in a Volvo.
The couple appeared to be strangers to the area. The woman was looking round a lot, appeared agitated and seemed to have just woken up. The man was in his early 40s.
Gloucestershire Constabulary officers working as part of the South West Major Crime Investigation Team received information that could unlock the case. And on the anniversary of the discovery of Carol's body, they were appealing for information that could help further. Detective Chief Inspector Wayne Usher said, "I have received new and significant information about this case, and while I cannot say more at the moment without putting inquiries at risk, it is an encouraging development and one which has all my officers more determined than ever to find Carol's murderer, but I still need the public's help. Carol lived and worked in a very close-knit community, and it's likely that some people with information about what happened to her remain silent, perhaps through fear or misplaced loyalty. In the meantime, that's passed since. Alliances and loyalties have changed, so I'm asking people to search their consciences once again, 30 years after her death, to look at the photo, to think about the impact this continues to have on her loved ones, and help bring this culprit to justice. Still want information from anyone who may have seen something near the spot where Carol was found to come forward if they recall anything." The case was reopened in 2023 when police received new and significant information. In March 2024, officers from the Gloucestershire Constabulary travelled up to Newcastle to arrest a man as part of the investigation into Carol's death. The 64-year-old was questioned before being released on bail. Of course, the man was not named for legal reasons, and it's unknown who he was, but police at the time obviously felt that they had something on him, maybe some kind of evidence, DNA, or maybe he was a punter that night. It's not known what his involvement was, if any, until police spoke out in relation to his arrest. I can confirm that the man from Newcastle, who was arrested in connection with the murder of Carol Cook, will face no further action, and to this date, no one has been brought to justice for the murder of Carol Clark.